Welcome back to Share Rambles. Today I wanted to talk about 5 items to help make you more comfortable on trail. And we will get right into it. So first up, I have anti-chafe cream, or this is actually a gel. So what I use is this Monistat gel. Gold Bond also makes a anti-chafe stick. I know a lot of people use Body Glide. I personally don't like Body Glide, but to each his own. Try them out, see what you like. But yeah, it really helps if that's an issue you're coming across, especially if you're somebody that's more on the plus size like I am, that you have more skin-to-skin contact. So this just helps a lot to help reduce friction. Next is trekking poles. So I just brought one, or I have one with me. So this is my Black Diamond Pursuit trekking pole. It's aluminum. So basically, trekking poles are really good. Help propel you like up trail, down trail. They help keep you from falling down. They've helped me from falling down oodles of times. I highly recommend them. I don't go anywhere without them. I always keep them in my car. If I say start the trail and forget them, I will turn right back around and go get them. So, things to know about trekking poles. You don't necessarily need anything that's super expensive like these are. These are, I believe, around $150. So, not super necessarily, especially if you're just like getting into hiking, you're still new to it. There are cheaper options. I have Black Diamonds. My husband has Diorite Gear, which is another pretty expensive pole, but they're said to be like indestructible, basically, or the last pole you'll ever need. I don't remember what their slogan is. Lecky also is well known for making poles. So let's talk about different types of poles, because there's many, and you may look on like REI and be like, I don't know what I choose. What's the difference here? The first thing is the locking mechanism. So on mine, these are what they call lever locks. There's also ones that are called twist locks. So you like twist it and like then bring it up and lock it. Kind of like a tension rod, if you will, type of system. And then there is the handle. So there's typically like a rubber handle, and then there's these cork handles. And then finally, it's the material they're made out of. So mostly there's carbon fiber or there's aluminum. So these are aluminum. Now, with these different aspects of the pole, through my own research, and you can do your own research and, pick what you want. But I've heard that lever locks are the best. They stay better than the twist and lock ones do. And I can imagine, like, especially if you're like going through trail and you get this caught and you twist it just the right way, I can imagine that pole just like immediately recollapses on you. And another thing I wanted to mention was, aside from the lever lock and twisting lock, they also make collapsible poles. They kind of like go into each other. And, like, I've seen some that are, like, kind of, like, magnetized to, like, stay together. I'm not a big fan of them, but, I do know people that love them. They swear by them. So, again, it's personal preference on that. But I just go for the standard lever lock. Back to the handle. So, cork is a little bit better because it's more moisture wicking, so it gets rid of that sweat that you'll accumulate when you're holding onto your poles. Finally, there's the carbon fiber versus aluminum debate. A lot of people like carbon fiber because it's lighter. However, if your poles snap, I'm not saying they will snap, but poles are known to do so if you're using them for extended periods of time. So say you're doing a long trail, people have snapped them on long trails. So it is possible to break these. The thing I'd say to keep in mind is carbon fiber, when it breaks, it breaks. With aluminum, it typically bends. It doesn't break, it bends. That's why I went with aluminum this time around. But I was looking at the weights between the carbon fiber and aluminum, and I don't really see much of a difference per se. You can get really lightweight poles that are like much thinner than this that are carbon fiber. I'm a big person. I want something that helps keep me up. I will say there are cheaper options. So before I got these, I had Cascade Mountain Tech poles. You can get them on Amazon. I've also heard that you can get them in Costco. Another brand is called Trail Buddy, which I think is on Amazon. They usually run around $50 to $70. They're a cheaper option than this. You don't necessarily need to go this route. You can choose that first. I got them first to make sure I'd like them and, you know, could figure out how to use them and all that. One other thing I want to say about them is utilizing them. You'll notice they have these straps. So the proper way to wear these straps is you take your hand and go underneath of it, and then you put your hand down over top of the strap and then grab your pole. And that just helps make sure that the pole stays with you and you don't like drop it down the side of a cliff or something. There are people that don't use them, but if you want to use them, that's the proper way to do so. The other thing is they have numbers on them, which these are in centimeter. It's really hard to tell in this light. But they have numbers on them. And there's some on this end too. So there's typically like 2 different parts to the shaft. This is like a skinnier end. This is a thicker end. So when you're trying to figure it out, you want to keep your hand at like a 90-degree angle. I like my arm not necessarily right at a 90-degree. I like it down a little bit. So just figure it out for yourself, like what feels good, but try to start around the 90-degree and then adjust to as needed. The other goal is to try to keep these 2 relatively equal. If you need one longer than the other, then choose the the top part, because this is more structurally sound than say this is. So just something to keep in mind with poles. Next, I want to talk about hats. Brimmed hats, to be specific. So here I have 2 different kinds. I have this Trailheads one. It's a polyester that is like mesh see-through. You can kind of see it. And then another one I have is this Outdoor Research one. It's got this like nylon piece with a mesh inner. And this is like separate. Basically, I like them because they allow more airflow. I run hot, as you may have heard in other videos, so I like that. But the reason I choose these as a comfort item is because not only is it considered part of your 10 essentials as sun protection, but also I have found that, especially with my like smaller head, a lot of hoods on things like my sun hoodie, my puffy, my rain jacket, all of the hoods are like ginormous, and so they tend to like fall over my face, so when I'm walking I can't see anything. And every time I wear like one of those items and have to use the hood and I don't have a hat, I regret it. So what happens is you have your hat on and those hoods will come and sit like right here, so they're not gonna fall down into your face, and that just to me is a lot more comfortable, because obviously you don't have to worry about this hood being in your face, especially when you may need it because it's too cold out or too hot out, or like the sun's beating down on you if you're wearing the sun hoodie, so you have it up to help protect your neck, or you know, you're wearing your puffy because it's cold, or you have your rain hood on because it's, well, raining. But yeah, you should always usually carry a hat. A lot of, you know, it's really recommended actually to have more of like a full brimmed hat to really give you that full protection. But a lot of people wear the standard, like, I don't know, what do you call this, trucker hat, basically, or an actual trucker hat. The next thing I want to bring up is ibuprofen, or vitamin I in the hiker world. Again, a lot of people keep ibuprofen in their first aid kits. Ibuprofen, and I will say, I have acetaminophen as well. But ibuprofen is typically a anti-inflammatory medication. It's not necessarily it's relieving pain through reducing inflammation, is basically my understanding of it. Where acetaminophen actually targets the pain itself. So I keep both on me. I use both when I hike. Typically I will take ibuprofen 15 to 30 minutes before I start hiking, and then when I'm done, if I'm still in like a lot of pain, then I'll take the acetaminophen. I think technically you could take them together, but a lot of people, like doctors, recommend you stagger them, basically. I do also have this leg cramp medicine. I have been prone to get the leg cramp that's in your calf. The ones that, I don't know, if you ever had a Charlie horse in the middle of the night, that it hurts a lot. And sometimes that happens to me on trail. And I don't know if these actually work, but at least I have some just in case. You know, it's just one extra step to help keep me comfortable on trail. So, to help keep you pain-free on trail, back to painkillers. My final comfort item on trail is electrolytes. So electrolytes are usually found in like a powdered form, and I have a lot of them. You'll see a lot of orange because like orange and citrus are basically, like lemon lime, are basically the only kind flavor I like. So what happens is, even though you may be drinking water, water isn't always enough to actually hydrate you, especially when you're hiking. You're gonna sweat. Pretty much anytime, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it, you're gonna sweat. It doesn't matter if it's summer, winter, anytime during the year, you'll probably sweat at least a little bit. So when you sweat, you actually lose your electrolytes. Primarily you lose sodium, but you can also lose the other ones, which are magnesium, calcium, and potassium. So that's why you utilize your electrolytes to help replenish them back into your system, helping to prevent fatigue, leg cramps, even headaches, and things like that. Here I have Liquid IV. This is immune support one. I'll give you a little shot of what's in it. And then I have Prime. I have Ultima. And I have Elements. So I started off with Liquid IV because that's basically what I knew was available, what I've heard of. Elements, pretty pricey if you look it up online. So I started out with Liquid IV, but I also decided, somebody had also mentioned this Ultima brand, so I was basically in the testing and figuring it out phase of electrolytes, and I had on a hike last summer. It was pretty warm outside. I was at Stony Brook, so if you're local to New York, you'll know roughly where Stony Brook is in New York. And at the top of the Gorge Trail in Stony Brook, there's like multiple flights of stairs, like 5+ flights of stairs. So that was pretty like daunting, if you will, for me. So I got to the top of that, but the way I was part of a hiking challenge, and the way the challenge took me was I went up I got to the top, and then I kind of turned around, and behind me I had to go up even more sets of stairs. I think it was even more than the ones I just went up. I worked my way about halfway up that second grouping on that new trail. I was going back down a rim trail basically, and I started getting like dizzy, even like almost blacking out to a point. Like I just had like I'm like, okay, I'm stopping right here. So I gathered myself, I calmed down a little bit, I continued to get to the top, and I stopped, and I only had this in my bottle. I typically carry 2 1-liter Smart Water bottles with me, full of water, every time I go hiking. It doesn't matter if I'm doing 1 mile or 4 miles. I always carry at least 2 liters with me. And in the summer, I even recommend carrying even more than that. I might even get the 1.5 liter bottles for this coming summer, because I did run out a couple times last summer. Luckily, my husband doesn't go through water like I do, so he still had some left and could share with me. But, you know, it's important to keep water on you. But anyway, so what I had did on that trail was I had one of these, and then I also had one of these with me. So I put them both in my second bottle. What I can tell you is it was like it breathed life back into me. So I knew right then, like, I'm like always putting these together, because this has more salt content, but this has more more minerals in it. So I put them together to help me out. I was in Idaho this summer as well, and I didn't bring any electrolytes with me, so I had to make a quick trip to the store because we were hiking. And the only thing I could find aside from liquid IV, which I knew may not be enough, was Prime. Again, doesn't have as much sodium, so we're talking 500 milligrams versus 40 milligrams. And so I decided to try this lemonade one with the liquid IV citrus lemon lime flavor, and it's really good actually. It's very like tangy, soury kind of. It helped me out. So that's why I also have Prime for when I'm just in the mood for that particular flavor combo. And finally, I got myself a whole box. I actually have a couple boxes of Element, but I grabbed the chocolate caramel at one point because it was some deal that they had, and I honestly don't care for it. But so if you ever want to try some, let me know and I can send you one of the chocolate caramel. But I got the citrus salt, and this obviously has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, which is a lot, but also 200 milligrams of potassium and 60 milligrams of magnesium. This is pretty much like the, if you want to call them professional hiker, like standard. Everybody uses this, everybody swears by it, or at least they say so, because they have a sponsorship with them. I mean, I believe that they genuinely think it's a good product, so I'm not going to rag on them that much. But obviously, if they think it's good, then it must be good, right? So I have been trying it. I haven't had any issues with it. It's been working fine for me. Anyway, that is my 5 comfort items on trail. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know if you yourself have found any comfort items on trail. Feel free to share them in the comments. And thanks for watching. And as always, thanks for letting me ramble. See you later.